this week you'll see if you were following me on Instagram today, I posted showed that I've got a podcast mic which I bought from Yeti on Amazon, and I got this wee stand as well, which is pretty helpful. So I'm just trying to upgrade the actual podcast and just make the sound quality better as well. Right now I've not got it synced up with live, but I will get round to that. So you people who are coming on live with me just now are kind of following the journey of setting this up from basically the first week, which was a test week, which were just takeaways from the conference that I was at in London. And then I realised that people are actually quite interested in hearing some of the things I had to share just about that and about search engine optimization, which is my topic. So I thought, why not just start a podcast now and start doing this weekly Facebook Live. And I've now been sharing my Facebook Lives onto SoundCloud, and I'm just getting it onto iTunes as well and all the other platforms. So I'm just learning podcasting as I go, but instead of starting a podcast and then doing Facebook Live later, I'm trying to do it all at once. It's a lot of new things to me. I'm just learning as I go and being resourceful rather than waiting for the perfect time to be ready to jump on video and do podcasts. So thanks for everyone who's joining me today, and whoever watches this replay. I really appreciate all your feedback so far and all the questions that have come in the previous weeks, and I hope to get some Q&As going at the live Q&As at the end of this as well. So again, the three things I was talking about today are going to be social signals, local search engine optimization, and if domain names are important for your SEO ranking as well. And that was a question I got. So the first two are things that I wanted to cover, I wanted to share. I've got a couple of questions that I want to ask each week, and there's a few questions pending, which I plan to answer maybe at the end of this or next week. But the number 3 about the domain names was actually a question that came in this week, and it was a great question that he seemed to have known a few things about the domains, and he's been asked this question a few times, which it was a great question. But first, we'll talk about social signals. So, what are social signals? It's the basics of it is, if we look back to how search engine optimization started at the beginning, what we had was backlinks were sort of a key ranking factor, and there was about 200 ranking factors. Now, basically, there never used to be as many different ranking factors. It used to be pretty black and white, quite straightforward, that basically you needed some keywords, you needed a domain name with the keywords in that, and then you needed a couple of backlinks from different websites linking back to you. But of course, as normal, marketers ruin everything. Search engine optimization, black hat experts ruin things as well. So what happened was people were manipulating that system, figured that out, and just got lots of keywords stuffed into their website content, and then also got lots of backlinks linking from their friends. And basically Google figured that out with a couple of updates like Panda and Hummingbird, and that was wiped out. But then social media and quality content became more important. Just wanted to check who's joining us on Facebook Live just now. So thanks for joining, Christine and Stephen Noble, thanks for that. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll try and get them answered at the end of this. I'll take them all at the end, and if you just post them up just now, and tell us where you're from as well. So the social signals, how do you get started with that? It used to be backlinks, and now it's more important that you have quality content on your blog, for example, a blog article, and you share that blog article onto social media. So the first step is really getting a website with a blog or building a blog, and then you then need to start using the blog, creating content that's based around your industry, something that can be helpful or good information for your customer to know about. For example, what I'm doing is content marketing. I'm sharing my advice on what you can do, like DIY in it. But what this actually does is that people who don't want to DIY it see a couple of your videos, and then they ask you to do it for them. And that's one way of doing it. It just establishes yourself as an expert. That's one thing that it does. There's lots of other benefits. in terms of search engine optimization. And then once you've got that content onto the blog, lots of content covering lots of different frequently asked questions that your customers ask, for example, you can create a list of about 20 frequently asked questions that you get from your customers, get them on a sheet of paper and start answering them on video, podcast or articles and blog articles, and get that shared. And to get it shared, what you need to next do is create some social media channels. And what that will do alone is, like for example, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn. You can create company pages on LinkedIn, and you can have a couple of accounts on your Twitter as well. And you can, most of these accounts you can create business profiles now, and you can have your phone number and you can have your website address. So they're free backlinks from all these social media channels. So I would recommend getting on all of them. They're the sort of core ones. But you've also got Tumblr and all the other social sharing platforms. And it's best just to get that in place, and it's called building, like, so you've got your website, and then you build a social fortress around your website, and that shows, it's like a way of giving trust to your website to Google, because they can see, like a spammy website, I talked about this the other week, that a spammy website would get launched up on the internet and it would never get touched again, it's completely static. But if a website gets put onto the internet, to kind of give it a good launch and tell Google your website's alive, is to get that website, build social media profiles around it, all of them will all link to that website, and that will give it some extra domain authority, some power. But on top of that, the social signal part, on top of that is just creating the social fortress, as I call it, and then you can, within all of them, share your blog posts from your website into each of them. And then if it's good quality content and you do a good summary of it on social media, so you create a blog post, that blog post has its own unique URL, it gets shared onto Twitter, for example, or Facebook onto here, and then if one of your friends like that, or a prospect customer, or say some of your audience click like or comment on that, each time that gets commented on, it kind of shows the popularity, and that's what Google looked at. Like, Google's built around, it was built around backlinks, and the more backlinks it had, the more authority the domain had, and the higher it ranked. So what you're aiming for is a higher authority of your domain, and to get that, instead of backlinks alone now, although backlinks are still important, it was manipulated and they had to change their system. And the new way is to create that popularity of your seemingly popularity of your domain, like multiple backlinks. What you want is multiple backlinks, and you want some people linking, sharing your blog articles on social media on their own profile, but also when you share it, you want a good following of people when you post things, that they will click like on that. And if your link's in that that post that you do on social media, that gives a social signal to Google and says this link's popular. And the more shares, engagement that post gets with your link in it, that's all feeding to Google saying, yeah, this article's good quality content because lots of people are talking about it and sharing it. So you'll see when videos go viral or anything on social media, that's all really helping a company if they've got their link in it. It goes back to their profile. But it's not only, they look at the actual follower count and things as well now, so it's all getting more complex, but that's how it works, and as briefly as possible, how social social signals work. And it's basically, it's the best way to put it is, when someone clicks like or shares or comments on a post, it's like your audience or the users on Facebook are giving Google feedback about that content. So if something gets shared and it gets nothing, it's not getting any feedback to Google, and that's kind of how it works. The next thing I wanted to talk about was your name, address and phone, which also known as NAP, N-A-P. So if I mention NAP, that's what I'm talking about. It's your name, address and phone number. That's not just your name, it's the company name. So for example, if you were setting up, this is talking about setting up a brand new business, but most of you watching will probably already have a business in place. So what you need to define is the brand name. So when I was creating this, as I've been developing this podcast, anyone in Ben's Business Book Club Facebook group will have seen that I've done a poll and asked for people to tell me what they thought the best brand name was for this podcast Q&A Facebook Live, and I came up with Ben's Business Q&A, or Ben's, for the podcast, Ben's Business Podcast. And you have to really commit and decide that that's exactly how it's going to be spelled. It's going to be spelled with an apostrophe S, it's going to be business, and it's going to be Q and symbol A. So it's going to be consistent across the internet when you share that, and you have to really decide that that's how it's going to be said. So a good example of this is, for example, sorry, something's came through there. A good example is if WordPress, they always want people to use the capital W, so it's WordPress, it's all one word, but they want the people to use the capital P. This doesn't really count in terms of search engine optimization, but that's a good example of keeping their brand consistent. When people post it on social media or share anything about WordPress, you'll notice they always use a capital W and a capital P, even though it's all one word. So think about that before you actually go ahead and start using this NEP concept I'm talking about. Decide on that. That's a very important part of this, and that's why I had to explain it up front. What this is about is local search engine optimization, and the more consistent your content is across the internet, your address then has to be exactly the same as normal, because we all have counties, and we can have like 2B, like if you're a flat or whatever, but you have to watch and make sure that the spacing and the address is being placed on the internet as consistently as possible. So from your website, for example, you have to have that consistency there. And then when you want to get your business business details, your name, address and phone number, into directories, this is an important part of search engine optimization in the local search results. So to get on that Google map listing, which used to be called Google Place Pages, but now it's set up through an account through Google My Business, which you can go to google.com/business and set up a listing, a free listing. It's like adding your business, we have in the UK, adding your business to yell.com, or the Yellow Pages back in the day, and that was like a phone book. So we had the UK phone book as well, the purple book that we got delivered to our door, and everyone in the US, as I believe, got the Yellow Pages as well. So it's almost the equivalent. By adding your business details, the NAP, the name, address and phone number, into these online business directories. Yell.com is definitely one now. We've got Yelp, we've got Google My Business, we've got Bing Pages, and even Apple now. So one thing I noticed is when we search on our phone with the voice search on an iPhone anyway, it actually searches through Apple. And if you don't have your business details into Apple, then you're actually missing a good opportunity there, because it gives us search results or directions to. So if I wanted directions to a restaurant in Edinburgh, it's doing it through Apple now, through Apple's Map app on the phone. And that's why everything's changing all the time with search engine optimization, because it's all going mobile. But going back to what I was saying, you need to then have the consistency of that address and the phone number, even the spacing. Like if you're in Edinburgh, for example, we have an area code which is 0131, and then if you want, you can have a space after that and then add the rest of the number, or you can have it all together with the zero spacing. But if you decide, you have to decide that at the start. Just get into a notepad and have that to copy and paste when you're creating directories. The next step, once you've decided on the NAP, is getting it into those business directories that I've mentioned, Yelp, Google My Business, to get you started. But there's 30, 40 more I could mention. That'll get you started, though, if you're a new business. And if you're not, most companies, it's funny, they've not been established for a long time, but they sometimes aren't even or haven't claimed their Google My Business listing. So that's the next step, is to add your business details that you've decided on onto all the free online business directories, and even related business directories, because you can have like electrician directories specifically, and that can be a free listing. So it'd be a good backlink, because you get your website address and these links as well. But this is more important for the local search rankings that you get on Google, which will get you to show up in those sort of first 3 map results if someone searches something locally. So if you've got any more questions on that, just send a question through Facebook Live and I'll try and answer it at the end. The next thing I wanted to cover was a domain name. So someone asked me a question. Basically, the question I always get asked is having a good or bad for SEO name. I think you meant SEO domain name, or does it matter? For example, justnetflix.co.uk or just Netflix with a hyphen between the just and the netflix.co.uk. Would Google rank them differently? And that's from Simon. So I think the short version of that question is, domain names, are they important for search engine optimization? And yes, they are. In terms of, we should have keywords in the domain name. So that's going back to like your brand name. But if, for example, I was setting up a website for a joiner in Edinburgh, I would make sure that I bought the domain name if it was available, joiner in, and then the location .co.uk, or if you're in America.com. Then I would build a website on that domain and add keywords into there. So it's important for that because it has the keywords. It gives you an extra chance of showing up on the search results for those keywords that you have in the domain name. And I would definitely secure the domain name that has keywords. Regarding the hyphen, so I'll go back to what I mentioned there. So it's justnetflix.co.uk or just-netflix.co.uk. Those types of things I don't think matter. They're very minor things that they don't matter for search engine optimization anyway at the beginning, especially in a small niche. Once the company gets bigger and things, it's definitely something worth thinking about, because that can cause you some hassle down the line when you want to send links directly to people. But it's very rare that when people go into a search bar, they're searching into a search engine, they're searching into Google. They're not putting in a URL anymore. We're not typing in www.justnetflix.co.uk. We're not putting in that .co.uk anymore. We're all going into search bars rather than domain searches. So there's a big difference there, and it's very rare that people are searching into the actual web browser search bar. And in terms of keywords, it's very important to have them in the domain. But in terms of hyphens and things, if you can't get the original, I would definitely recommend you can get it without the hyphen, get it without the hyphen, because that's going to cause you an issue, and people needing people to remember to put that hyphen in once you start branding and doing like banner ads, or you don't want to have that issue down the line. But to get started, and if you don't have that domain that doesn't have the dash in it but it's got good keywords in it, I would say go for that and fix those things later. It's like buying your usernames on social media. When you first get started, don't worry about those minor things about like having a number 2 rather than number 1. So Ben Laing number 2 is my username at the moment. Whoever's got Ben Laing without the number, without any numbers, I'm going to buy that username off him one day. So that's the plan, is like start small and just work your way up. It's just like how I'm building this podcast up. I'm buying equipment now that I'm doing it. I've got lights, and I already had lights because I was actually doing videos. So get things started and then worry about those wee tiny things down the line if they actually are causing you problems, but very rarely they won't. That was the number one question that kind of came up this week. There's a few more questions that came up the previous weeks that I do plan to answer next Monday. Does anyone have any questions? I'll just jump on here to see if anyone's got any live questions for me. I see Simon's online. Thanks for joining me here. So have any of you got further questions regarding what I've talked about here, social signals, local SEO and SEO domain names? It would be interesting to hear your feedback on that, and if you have any deeper questions into them. While I wait for some questions to come through, I'll just get my tablet here to see if anything's come through. So while I wait, I just wanted to mention that some of the things I've talked about here, I do usually go over. If you want a free site review of your website, or me to review your website and have a look at the search engine optimization, what I'm doing at the moment, I'm offering is a free site review. So if you've got a website already for your company, I'll go onto your website, record with earphones on, record my voice, and just go tell you what I think about some user-friendly issues or search engine optimization that can be improved, and things that will improve the actual sales, so the conversion of a user to a lead filling out the contact form. How you can improve that by just small tweaks that I can mention, and that's usually up to 10-minute website review. I'll be just going on like I'm a user, but giving you some experienced feedback as well from a web development point of view, as well as being like as if I was a potential customer. So if you're interested in that, just go to onlinemarketingconsultant.co.uk and you can click on the link there for a free site review, and that's completely free. And I'll just get onto that and send you a video once I'm done with the free site review. I don't see any further questions coming in at the moment. If you've watched this on a replay, feel free to leave some questions in the comments below, and I'll definitely make sure I answer them in next week's Ben's Business Q&A or podcast. Thank you. Thanks for watching.